Hello, friends. You're about to listen to an interview by Thom Walters, who is the host of the podcast Zen Commuter. He has spent his entire adult life studying meditation and how it can help you. This is an absolutely fabulous interview. He is interesting from the beginning to the end. He does a meditation that you can go through that really took me to a traveling place. It was really beautiful. So today, you're going to learn about the power of meditation and how it can help with ADHD and anxiety and incarcerated people and all of these different things. He has a beautiful story, and you're just really going to love it. So welcome to Mindful Mutiny. And today we have a very special guest. We have Thom Walters. Thom, welcome to Mindful Mutiny.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeremy.
Thom Walters is a seasoned meditation teacher and the esteemed host of the Zen Commuter meditation podcast, where his guidance has reached thousands seeking tranquility and fulfillment in their lives. Starting his meditation journey in 1982 at the age of 18, Thom has amassed over 5,000 hours of practice, making meditation the cornerstone of his life. His dedication has led him to interview prominent meditation thought leaders and delve deeply into various meditation practices, aiming to share the transformative power of mindfulness with as many people as possible, with a mission to teach meditation to 1 million people. Thom believes in this profound impact of mindfulness on personal and global peace, emphasizing the importance of understanding one's purpose and connection to all living things. Through his work, Thom aspires to create a world where calmness, purpose, and interconnectedness prevail, changing one's life from the way that we are in the tangible world to one that is mindful and connected to all living things at all times. So, Thom, tell us what you do.
Jeremy, thank you so much for that introduction. How absolutely well-researched. And I'm hoping none of your listeners are doing the math when you said 82, 18. I'm like, oh man, this guy is older than dirt.
Well, I know where I was in 1982.
Were you on the planet?
Yeah, I was sitting on a shag carpet watching the Dukes of Hazzard, and with my little Dukes of Hazzard car on the shag carpet, driving it around.
Well, if I was doing that when I was in 1982, I think I would have gone to see somebody like you, actually. Now my life is very different and absolutely just sublime many times. To your point, I'm a meditation instructor, and I am the host of Zen Commuter and Calmer in 5 podcast. And I teach individuals, companies, online and in person, how to meditate for, much like you had so kindly said in your introduction, to just change the world. At least 1 million people is my goal. I think I'm pretty close. But to that point, if we all have a sense of peace individually, then global peace is just around the corner. If not, they go hand in hand. So that's my goal for helping people understand who they are. I mean, that's one of the main reasons I teach meditation, is to help people really become empowered, much like you, help people become empowered and really see where their mind is tripping them up and where it's freeing them. And with our society the way it is, not to bash society, but I mean, if we wake up and just let our minds be controlled by everybody around us as opposed to ourselves, then that can create a lot of unrest and a lot of, well, much to like our planet now, a lot of wars, a lot of dissatisfaction, a lot of challenges that would be lessened if we were a bit more introspective. And the other thing too, the interconnectedness that you had talked about as well. I always want people to feel that they are part of something. And I know it's not just with my meditation practice, and maybe we'll talk about this a little later, that when I meditate, I do feel that profound connection to all life, not just here, but literally everywhere. And I feel that. And when I do feel that, it's quite powerful. But I also think about people who experience loneliness and sadness and suffering. And one of my goals is to help them not get rid of that, because we grow most through those times, but make that the exception more than the default. So I just want to help people become more empowered, calmer, wiser, and happier, as I say on Zen Commuter. So that's my goal.
And so how do you teach this? Are you doing courses online or?
Yep, exactly. So I have courses online at zencommuter.com. People can sign up for that. But also just going to businesses here in the area in Nashua, New Hampshire. I live in Nashua, New Hampshire, which is about 30 miles north of Boston. And I just go teach sometimes a one-off, like a 1 hour or 2 hour seminar at a company. And sometimes I am asked to stay for a couple weeks, and we get together once a week for, say, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and we really delve into meditation itself, but then also all the things that come with that. One of the things I like talking about is that when I go to companies, many times I get in the door. I don't want to say in a sly way, but many people ask me, like, well, you know what? We want our employees to be happier. We want them to be more productive. We want them to be more creative. We want them to be more emotionally stable. And I tell them meditation will definitely help with all those things. But my goal is to help them go deeper. So many of the people that I work with in these companies, they've never had a calm mind. They've never understood what it's like to be silent or to be still. And when they experience that because of a meditation practice, invariably, they'll meet all those goals of creativity, productivity, and all those things. But once we get through that, they'll kind of pull me aside and they'll say, it might be one or a couple people, like, I was meditating the other day and I saw something that I didn't really understand, or I experienced something that I didn't really understand. And then we'll talk about it, and they'll kind of broaden that out, like whether they had saw images or visions or experienced things that were outside of, quote, um, the regular waking world. And so we get to explore that. And I say sneakily because that is where I totally get excited. And we'll talk about this much later in the episode, of course, that my meditation has opened me up to the world that I didn't even know existed. And that's what I help people do with my meditation practice too. Not just help them not kill their coworkers, but but experience things that are a little bit more transcendent. So that's what I do.
So I noticed this in myself. I have the ADHD brain, and it's always been hard for me to meditate, to stop the chatter. It's something that I have a hard time doing just on my own, just listening to binaural beats or something like that. And having a voice that guides me is something that is good. Having a live person guide me is much better. And so with the ADHD brain, what do you generally recommend for that chatter?
Well, your advice is spot on. That would be my first thing for people that have challenges with ADHD. They're just sitting still or quieting their mind. Guided meditations are definitely going to be the best, because there are different types of meditation. There are guided meditations. Well, actually, there are 1,000 types of meditations, but there are two different categories: guided meditations and open meditations. A guided meditation is just what you'd expect. You have a facilitator who's saying, okay, close your eyes, take your deep breaths, and they guide you through the entire journey. An open awareness meditation is the exact opposite, where you're not guided. You literally just take those nice deep breaths, excuse me, and you just become aware of where you are. And you don't judge anything. You don't try and push things away. If thoughts come in, then they come in, and you simply just acknowledge them. You don't get wrapped up in the story, but you just basically say, I'm thinking, I'm feeling, I'm hearing. And you just basically don't try and push anything either way. You're just in that space, aware of everything. So to your point, or to your question, if somebody has ADHD or challenges with that and meditation's a little tough, then definitely guided meditations are beneficial. But also there are active meditations, meaning Tai Chi, Qigong, walking meditations, things that can facilitate a meditative state without simply sitting still.
Now, just for your information, While we're talking, I have the song "I Can't Go For That" by Hall & Oates playing in the back of my head. And so with this squirrel brain of mine that just never stops, these thoughts and music and different things coming in to my head, and just you're talking about just letting it go, just trying to dissolve it or let it go away.
Yeah, good point. And thank you for putting that in my head now, because now it's in my head. Not a bad song though, so I have no problem
Hey,
with
they're
that.
solid. They're solid.
Yeah, absolutely. To your question, anytime that we try and push a thought away, I think we all can understand that it comes back stronger. So we never, if we are in a meditation and we have a thought enter our minds, we don't say, oh, I don't want to think that. I don't want to think that. Go out, go away, go away. We just
Mm.
say, cool, I'm thinking. And then we just bring our attention to something else. And I say that simply because many people think that their minds have thousands of thoughts going on at the same time. The reality is that there aren't. Our minds can only process one thought at a time. It seems like we have all these thoughts going on at the same time because we are like nanoseconds just jumping all over the place. To your point, that monkey mind is just jumping all over the place. But if we come to a point where in meditation we're like, huh, that episode of Star Trek last night was really cool. Oh, okay. Back to breath. We acknowledge that thought, that errant thought, whatever it is. What's for dinner? Star Trek was cool. Hall and Oates. We say, okay, thought, I acknowledge you. Cool. And then we just bring our attention back to our focus, whether that be our deep breathing and our breath, a mantra, a chant, because our mind can only process one thought at a time. We acknowledge that, which disempowers it on some level. It doesn't eradicate it, but it just says, cool, I'm recognizing you, I see you, but I'm going to bring my attention over here. Whereas if we try and push it away, it says, I will not be denied. It would be like, I forget that movie with Glenn Close. I will not be denied, Dan. I forget the name of it. Do you remember which one it was?
No.
Oh boy. It's probably, you're probably too young for it.
Maybe.
But anyway, so to your point, at the risk of going off on a tangent, when we have a thought, we acknowledge it and then just bring our focus to our breath, a mantra, a chant, music, sounds in our environment. And that kind of disempowers the thought. We're not pushing it away. We're just saying, cool, I acknowledge you, but I'm bringing my focus somewhere else. And that's how we kind of tame that monkey mind. One of the other things, too, which is really important, and this is probably one of the hugest misperceptions about meditation, is that meditation is for clearing our minds. Without a doubt, and I'm going to try not to be adamant or or steadfast, but meditation isn't about clearing our minds. And many times, if I know there are many meditation instructors, but if somebody starts off with, okay, let's close our eyes and clear our minds, I'm like, oh, that's not what we're going to do. And that's a setup, because our minds are meant to think. Our minds create thought. In a meditation, our goal is not to eradicate thought. It's just to become aware of when we are thinking. Many times we go throughout our days not knowing when our mind switches gears to a different thought. Meditation at its core, the definition that I use all the time is meditation is the training of our mind to have one thought exclusively. And that means that if a thought comes in, just like I talked about, we can acknowledge it and move it to something else and just become aware of thoughts. And that's the main thing. One of the things I talk about with my students is broadening the gap between stimulus and response. And without a meditation practice, I think many people don't have a gap at all. Somebody says, hey, you know what? You're a lazy SOB. And they're like, what? Instead of having that gap where somebody says that and you're like, okay, they said that. It's not true. I don't know what they're talking about, what got them to say that, but it gives us that gap between stimulus and response, so where we can look at anything, whether it be emotions, whether it be thoughts, and have a response as opposed to a reaction. So well, meditation practice really broadens that gap between stimulus and response. So we can look at things and just say, nope, not getting caught up in that, or, huh, that's interesting. So we don't get all ramped up. And that's what promotes the calm pretty much. So that's what's beneficial.
Now, in my own work with people who have ADHD, people are so desperate. They're hurting so much because the way that those thoughts have created, it causes the impulsivity, it causes the oversharing, it causes the lack of attention to detail. These are definitely things that I deal with.
Right.
And so have you noticed that a strong, consistent meditative practice can actually change the way that that mind works? Because a lot of people are just like, I just need some Adderall. I really need it now.
That's a great, great question. And it kind of goes into the biology of meditation. And many times when I talk to people about meditation, there's a misperception that it's some spiritual practice, and it definitely is spiritual, but they think that, well, the only people that meditate are like monks up in the Himalayas or Buddhists or people that are profound. It's like not a day-to-day thing. But when I talk to people, it's the exact opposite. You can definitely use, and we'll talk about this later on, hopefully, talk about using meditation to broaden your spiritual practice or create a spiritual practice or journey. But the be all end all is that meditation changes our brains. We know now that there is neuroplasticity. Back in the day, we used to think that like at 18, and I think this was as little as in the 1950s, they basically said, okay, however your brain is at 18, that's how it's going to stay forever.
Thank
That it's
heavens that's not
formed.
true.
Yeah, thankfully we know that's not true. Whether you're 18 or 80, our brains are always changing. And to the point, and to your question, when we've been meditating for at least 2 weeks steadily for at least 20 minutes or so, our mind begins to change. And to your question, the amygdala, the portion of our brain that is responsible for emotions, for reactions, for that stress or fight or flight response, that is seated in the amygdala. But there's also our prefrontal cortex, which is more logical, more I don't want to say well, I said logical, but it's the part of our brain that says, I'm going to look at that and try to figure out a sensible, calm reaction, response to what's ever going on. I bring that up because as we're meditating, bringing up neuroplasticity, our amygdala begins to shrink, meaning we're stifling those emotional responses, we're stifling those reactive impulses, and our prefrontal cortex is becoming larger, which is basically saying, okay, cool. We had this thought. I feel it in my body as anger. How do I want to process that? Whereas the amygdala would say, I am pissed. I don't care. I'm not thinking. I am going to start swinging. I'm going to start swearing. I'm going to start yelling. So our brain literally starts to change after meditation. So the long and short of it, I chose long, is that that yes, your brain does change from meditation practice, and that could facilitate people with challenges with ADHD.
How about depression and anxiety? These things are specifically with depression can be really, really difficult to deal with. How have you noticed the change in depression and anxiety using a meditative practice?
That's great because it allows us to look at thoughts. We talked about that gap between stimulus and response. If we think about anxiety, if we think about worry, we're basically saying we're we're creating a thought that isn't really based in reality per se, but we're perceiving it as real. And not only are we perceiving it as real, we're amping it up. We're lighting a fire underneath it. So you're at work and your boss sends you off an email. Hey, can we sit down for 10 minutes? An anxious mind or worrisome mind would be like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. I'm there. And your brain starts creating that thought and that spiral starts going. You just start getting all that energy in there. So in regards to anxiety and worry, because we have that gap between stimulus and response, that same email or thought, your boss says, hey, I want to see you. You're like, wonder if they want to talk to me about a raise, a project, and your mind just goes to any way that isn't worry. So the answer to your question is that meditation, by creating that gap or broadening that gap, really diminishes worry because we aren't getting sucked into the emotion and we're not really getting all that energy. And more to the point, we have that gap to say, is this a real thought? Or is this a thought that I created? And if it is a thought that I created, I can uncreate it or just see it as a thought and not get wrapped up in the story. So that's the anxiety portion of it. And depression and anxiety, as you know, are kind of hand in hand. They definitely go together. But in regards to depression, the benefits of meditation are much like we talked about off air, is it really creates that connection, meaning that we understand that we are part of something. Many times in our culture, all the things in our media, in our society says you are one of 8 billion plus people. You might be unique, but you're one person. You're not connected to anything. And many times with depression or with loneliness or things of that nature, we kind of feel that weight of society, and we think that we're alone, that we're disconnected, and nobody's ever going to understand what I'm going through. And this is a really tough time because I'm all alone and nobody understands. And I don't even know if I have the strength to get out of bed, because it's a fight to get out of bed. It's a fight to feel any differently. But with a meditation practice, we have an ability to be in a cocoon, per se, meaning that I kind of call it like a bubble, meaning that when we are looking inwardly, we're putting a shield around us to say societal thoughts, thoughts of people that may have our best interest at heart, some people that might not, all those kind of just bounce off. And we just have the ability to say, okay, I know what you're trying to say, but that's not resonating with me. I know by going inside what resonates with me. So we are squashing all those societal thoughts, all those human thoughts that say you're alone. And when we silence all those, we feel the connection. Sometimes it's very palpable. Sometimes it's just a whisper to say, no, we're all together. We got this. And other times, as I've talked to you about before, there are times where I'm like, I'm connected to all life. And whether I'm in my room, whether I'm on an island, I am part of everything. And I feel that. And so that is a long way around saying, helping us understand depression and the anxiety that you brought up.
You talk a little bit about the outer world and how small we often feel because we're seeing things on social media and everything like that, scrolling. You are trying to help people be better at focusing in one thought at a time and everything like that. And scrolling is like cocaine for your attention span. And so are you noticing people coming to your practice who do a lot of that, and how different they are than people that you taught 5, 10 years ago?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because it's wonderful how pendulums, how things go from one extent, one extreme to the other. And right now, if you're talking about social media like 5 years ago, and if you told people, I'm like, well, maybe you want to think about not being on Facebook, not being on Instagram, not being on TikTok, Twitter, X, whatever it is, people would be like, what do you mean? What do you mean not beyond those? But like, that's my life. And now, now people will be like, yeah, can you help me not do that? I'm like, and they know. And I think we all know that when we are engaging in social media, scrolling, I'm like, you might as well just be in a room with somebody saying, you're nothing. Your life is worthless. You have nothing going on. You have so many things that you need. And we know that social media is detrimental to our well-being. And yet, much like you said, like crack cocaine, we just keep going. So people definitely come to me with that intention. It may be guised as helping them become calmer, but we definitely get into the social media talk about, you know what? One of the great things about meditation is helping you understand your place in the world, and not just the world, but the universe. And one way that you can become more empowered is to turn inwardly as opposed to outwardly. Outwardly being social media and just scrolling and saying, how does my life pair up with everybody else? And so, yeah, many times people come to me in the past, I'd say past 4 years, saying, can you help me get a meditation practice going so I can stop social media? Like, yep, that's a good plan.
What are some of the other reasons that people end up coming to you?
One of the main reasons is one of the things I love, and that is understanding the world, life. And that sounds extremely heady, but we touched upon earlier, and that is just creating a spiritual practice. And regardless of whether you have a denomination or not, a meditation practice helps broaden that practice if you are Muslim, Christian, whatever it is, or non-denominational, but also helps you understand what's going on in the world outside of what you've been told is going on in the world. There have been many things that have happened in my meditations that are just surreal and sublime. And to try and put them into words is almost impossible. And they're profound and they've shaped my world, shaped my life. And I help people get in touch with that very thing for them. That is one of the other main reasons I teach meditation, is to help people create a spiritual journey or broaden a spiritual journey, or just see the world in a way that is not counter to what I will say that counter to what they believe, that time is linear, that there is one, when you're born, when you die, that is your life. Nothing happens outside of either of those things. All these things that I love helping people understand for themselves and find out for themselves. I don't have the answers for anybody. And I tell my students all the time, I'm like, if you came to me for answers, I don't have any. I'm going to help you get the answers for yourself. You are going to find the answers. I'm going to give you a tool to help you find the answers for yourself.
Excuse me, I had to sneeze, and so I muted myself. I apologize. So it sounds like what you're trying to do is to help people change their consciousness. You're trying to help people to see their own value and how they fit into the beauty of the world. And that means overcoming intrusive thoughts, which I often find with the people that I'm working with, is negative self-talk. Somebody saying, "You're so good at this," and you going, "Nah, no, I'm really not." These sorts of things. And to be able to just be in the moment with the be here now kind of philosophy.
Indeed. And that's a great segue, because that is a great point to make, that many times people come to me, or they find out that I am a meditation instructor. Maybe I'm at a party or I'm at a work event or whatever. And I tell people that I'm a meditation instructor, and invariably they say, "Oh, I've tried meditation and I should probably do it more, but like, I don't know." And the energy that I'm getting from those conversations is that these people, and it's just it's not a judgment. It's just like, but many people have said straight out, like, I don't want to sit still. I don't want to be alone with my thoughts, because when I am alone with my thoughts, I hear that inner dialogue that you were just talking about. The things say, you're not as good as Jane or Joe. You don't have as much money as you need. Your health is in decline, or you're not as smart, you're not as attractive. That inner dialogue. So many people, and no disrespect, no, everybody's got their own path, but many people that are on that have that very loud inner dialogue, they're like, yeah, I don't want to meditate because that gets really loud really fast. So I'm going to watch Netflix. I'm going to scroll. I'm going to drink. I'm going to have sex. I'm going to do drugs. I'm like, whatever is going to stop that inner dialogue, I'll do. But one of the things I let people know is that when they begin a meditation journey, one of the two things happen. Just like we talked about, we have that gap where we can kind of reality test that inner dialogue. You're worthless, or you're not that good at this or that. When we have that gap, that inner dialogue can come and say all those things, and you'd be like, where's that coming from? Who's saying that? What's the voice behind that? Where did I learn that? We have that gap to become curious and really see, and on some level disempower that inner dialogue, because we have that gap to say, yeah, that's not true, or that's not accurate. And the other thing too is that when we are meditating, as we are learning to meditate, we have two voices. We've got that inner dialogue that we just talked about, but we also have the voice of our higher self, our connection to our divinity, to light and love, that says, "You're fine. You're always going to be safe. You're always going to be protected. You always have what you need. You're right where you're supposed to be." So when we start off a meditation practice, that inner dialogue is like, it's just yelling, yelling, yelling. That the voice of our higher self is just like. But as we meditate, that shift, it's a wonderful shift when our higher self starts talking and becoming louder, and our inner dialogue starts becoming softer and softer, and many times almost non-existent, which is wonderful. So that's one of the hugest benefits I have for helping people meditate or teaching people to meditate, is just quieting that inner dialogue and turning up the volume to their higher self.
It's almost like we're driving ourselves crazy in the modern age. And I think about, you had mentioned meditative practices doing something, running, rowing, biking, walking, these things. And it's a repetitive thing that has a cadence, right? And I think about people 200, 300, 500, 5,000 years ago and the things that would have been going on. Farming, work with your hands, crushing nuts, fixing berries, like these sorts of things where on a hunt, you have to be quiet and you have to be patient and you have to know your prey. Gathering things, there's conversation involved among people. And the pace of everything is slower. And any given day, it's like we do more things now than people would do in months before, right? And
Right.
so, and there's more stimuli, there's more to-dos, there's more demands on our time. And it feels like I'm I don't mean, I'm just going to use the term the simpler time would have had more mindfulness built into it just by virtue of the repetitive pattern of life.
Mhm.
And that now there is just so much more. It's almost like it's fragmenting the way our brain thinks.
Indeed, indeed. And that's a great point. Obviously, when I was in 1982, when I learned how to meditate, I'm at the risk of sounding 9,000 years old. No computers, no social media, no internet, no nothing. So things were a lot calmer then, to your point. But here's the thing, too. Our minds have a way of making calm um, regardless of time, meaning that it could be 2024 or it could be 1982. If you have a mind that is worrisome and creates a lot of anxiety, then it doesn't matter what's going on. But to your point, we do have a lot more stimuli now. We have a lot more things to compare ourselves to. When you were in high school in 1981, well, when I was in high school in 1981, you're just like, you really just, you went to school and you're like, okay, what's everybody wearing? Okay, those are the jeans to wear. Those docksiders, got it. Cool. You didn't, and like when school got done or like whatever, the comparison stopped. Now comparison goes on all the time. You're on social media. You're like, oh, look at this guy's life. This woman's got everything going on, and you're just like constantly comparing yourself all the time. To your point, things were so much simpler when we didn't have those comparisons. And to that point, that is another great reason why I teach meditation, to help people understand that you can have a quiet mind, um, and it's within your power. Anytime we turn inwardly, we're increasing our power and we're calming ourselves down because we're not chasing after something external. We know it's important to us because we've looked inside to say, this is important to me. I mean, there have been so many people that I've worked with that are really pretty abundant, or either CEOs or people in really positions of authority, where they have told me quite candidly, like, I thought when I got this office, my life would be awesome. I thought when I had $200,000 in the bank, $1 million in the bank, that I'd be happy, and I'm not. So, but with a meditation practice, we start understanding what really is important. And so people stop thinking about, okay, when I have a relationship, I'm going to be happy. When I have that car, I'm going to be happy. A meditation practice says, what do I need to be happy? What does joy mean to me? And when we turn inwardly, we set the bar for ourselves, not looking outside of who we are. And that is just so powerful. And the most important thing in regards to a meditation practice is the ability to say, if society said, this is how you should think, if the entire world said, this is how you should think, with a strong meditation practice where you're turning inwardly, you said, I don't care if the entire world thinks this is what is right. It doesn't resonate with me, and I won't go with it. I don't need to be contrarian, but that has no meaning for me. I have sat in stillness. I have sat quietly and listened to what my soul is telling me is important to me. So regardless of how many people are screaming in my ear that this is what I should be chasing, it doesn't mean anything to me. And I won't chase what doesn't have meaning for me. So to your point, our meditation practice really quiets things. It brings 2024 to 1982, which is a good thing, or 1620 or 1512.
Well, in 1981, they were making better looking Trans Ams, at least. So
That's what I was thinking. I had a Carmen Ghia.
not bad.
No, it was a sharp car. It was a sharp car. You could see the road as you drove, but it was a sharp car.
So in 1982, you're just exploring yourself as a young man, and you get into a meditative practice with something. Like, what happens?
I love this story because A, it involves my mom, who is, even though we talk now, she's no longer in physical form, but my mom passed away about 7 years ago. But
Okay.
my mom was very progressive, extremely progressive, and so wise. But to that point, in 1982, she and two other teachers were teaching meditation in our home in Duxbury, Mass, which is right next to Plymouth Rock, and all that. But so every Tuesday they'd get together, and I remember the first Tuesday they did that. I'm like, my mom's like, "Hey, you got to get dinner started. I've got a meeting in the front of the house. We had a larger house, and the first two rooms were office space that my mom had, but she taught meditation in those rooms. I said, "Oh, what's going on?" She's like, "Oh, I'm going to be teaching meditation with two other people." I said, "Oh, that sounds pretty cool. Can I join?" And I can't believe I haven't asked her to this point. I'm like, but she said, not right now, sweetheart. Why don't we just, why don't you just wait? We're just going to do this and maybe someday." And I'm like, "Aw." So for literally like half a year, like every Tuesday came, I'm like, "What about tonight?" I mean, after a while, I'm like, she doesn't want me there. And I didn't say that begrudgingly or like despairingly. I'm like, no, I guess that's her thing. And maybe she just wants to have that, whatever. But I was always interested, and I would almost like literally, I'd be have my ear to the door, just listening. I'm like, what are they talking about? I'm like, and I'd catch most of it. I'm like, that's pretty cool. And then for whatever reason, one day my mom said, "Hey, I've got my meeting today. Would you like to join us?" And I was like, over the moon. I'm like, "Oh, I made it. I made it into the inner circle. This is so awesome." So from that day forward, obviously I learned how to meditate. Yeah, my mom was pivotal in teaching me how to meditate. And the rest, well, I shouldn't say the rest is history. Real quick story. I was meditating on Tuesday with the group, but I'd meditate on Saturday. I didn't have to go to school. I didn't have work. So I said, okay, from 1 to 2 on Saturday, I'm going to meditate. And invariably, this is really funny that when I was meditating back in the day, it had to be quiet. I mean, totally quiet. No dogs barking, no people. So I'm like, 1 o'clock was the time. I'm like, okay, my brothers are out. Everybody's out. I'm going to meditate. And if any noise came in, I just get so angry. I'd be like, "Oh, I can't meditate. I need quiet to meditate." And I just laugh thinking about that. But I bring that up because my meditation back in the day was meditating twice a week. It wasn't every day. And I remember going away to college, and we'll talk about this because I think it's something that'll be interesting to you. There was a certain time when I was at Ithaca College, and I don't know if it was finals or what was going on. I don't know if I was homesick. I'm just like, this is a stressful time. I'm like, there's a lot of S going down, and I'm like, I wish it was Tuesday. I wish it was Saturday so I could meditate. And I'm like, and I'm just like, I had this total, I can't believe, I was a little embarrassed myself. I'm like, dude, meditation can happen at any time. So it doesn't have to be Saturday. It doesn't have to be Tuesday. So I'm like, oh my God. I'm kind of to myself now. I'm like, God, what an idiot. I can meditate anytime. So I made a beeline to the chapel at Ithaca and I just started meditating. And from that moment on, it was pretty much every day. I'm like, this is good. Now I know why people do this every day.
Well, I would imagine that this would be something that you would have as just a practice of life. It wasn't really like a vocation for you originally. What is the story of this?
Great question. And thank you. Well, two things sprang to my mind when you were asking me that question. And one is that meditation now is a lot different for everybody than meditation was back in 1982. I literally was called a witch back in the day when people like they're like, what are you doing on Tuesday? And I'm like, oh, meditating. Like, what the heck is that? I'm like, oh, it's a practice of getting in touch with ourselves and quieting our minds. And people are like, so are you like a warlock or a witch? I'm like, what? No. Mindfulness and meditation were just so alien to people back in the day. So to my point, and not that I need condoning that. So when I didn't talk a lot about meditation, so it wasn't on the forefront of my mind because it was kind of, I don't want to say taboo, but it wasn't really talked about like it is now, and that's awesome. And to your point, like if somebody told me when I was 18 years old that when I grew up, I was going to be teaching meditation and that I'd be heard all over the world, I'd be like, you are kind of crazy. That's not going to happen. So, um, so the journey that happened was literally I was working for Fidelity Investments. My meditation practice was going swimmingly, but I was working one day at Fidelity Investments and I was working on a Sunday. I had to get some things done. I was like behind and I'm like, okay, nobody's going to be in the office. So I'm working and I'm getting ready. I'm finishing up. It's like 2 o'clock. And in my mind, I'm literally just saying, I'm like, okay, am I done here? Meaning, have I gotten all my work done? And then I hear my guide, Bart, say, you are done here. And I'm going to probably get choked up thinking about it. He's like, it's time to move on. I'm like, it is. It is time to go. And to that point, I went to a conference room, meditated, talked to Bart more exclusively. And that about half an hour after that, went back to my desk, typed up my letter of resignation for my boss at Fidelity and said, thank you so much for this opportunity, but it's time for me to do what I'm really called to do. And that was teach meditation. So, yeah. And there was I mean, at first, my thoughts were, I'm like, okay, I wasn't really, I wasn't teaching meditation at the time, but I'm like, there's something else out there, and this isn't it. But if I stay here, I'll never know what it is. I can meditate, but until I really find out what has meaning for me, like I tell everybody, I'm like, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to languish on this vine, and I don't want to do that. So I'm like, I got to fish or cut bait. So yeah, I decided to write a book, which is out on Amazon called Discovering Joy. That was my first kind of venture into entrepreneurship and doing what I was called to do. And I became a personal trainer. And through that, as I was just being a personal trainer, I was thinking about all the clients that came to me and to lose weight, to get stronger. And there was this one woman who came to me, and a lovely woman, and she was just so distraught. She's like, she was overweight, she was stressed, she was unhealthy. She's like, I am doing all that you're telling me to do, and I'm not losing weight. She's like, I eat everything that you tell me to eat. I do all the exercises. I said, okay, what's your sleep like? She's like, I don't sleep. I'm like, well, that's a good start right there. She's like, I can't. She's like, my mind just doesn't let me sleep. She's like, I worry about my husband and his health. I worry about my children and their health. I'm a nurse, so I'm taking work home with me all the time. And at this point, I knew obviously that the cortisol in her system was like impeding her weight loss. And then it had me thinking, I'm like, okay, personal training is cool, but it's not going to do anything if somebody's mind isn't allowing them to get any peace. And this woman was probably, I didn't even tell her this, but she's probably one of the main reasons that I do what I do. I mean, she was so physically and visibly upset, not just about her health, but just you, when you walked into a room with her, she was a lovely woman, but it was like there were two different people. There was this lovely woman that was like cocooned in stress and anxiety and suffering. And I'm like, ah, if there's anything I can do. And there was one day I'm like, are you willing to try something? She's like, what do you mean? She's like, how about we not work out today? She's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, why don't we go into my office and we're going to meditate? She's like, what's that? And I talked to her about meditation and I guided her through a meditation. And at the end of the meditation, she's like, I have never experienced that much calm in my life. And I'm like, well, I'm glad. I said, I'm getting choked up thinking about it. I said, I'm glad because that's what I want your life to be. I want your life to be full. To be honest, I'm like, I don't give a rat's you know what, how much you weigh or what you look like. And hopefully you don't either. I want you to just exude the life that you have underneath all that stress. I see you in such a different way. And if I could help you see you as I see you, man, that would make me so happy. And I think it would make you happy too. So, long story short, we stopped training. Well, we kept training, but she asked me to teach her how to meditate. So I'm like, oh, cool. So that is the story.
Amazing. Amazing. And this is just an odd question that just kind of occurred to me out of the blue here. Have you ever worked with anybody who is on the spectrum?
I don't know if I have. Well, I know I haven't. And maybe I've worked with people that maybe didn't know that they're on the spectrum, or
Okay.
to that point, I guess to your question, I haven't to my knowledge.
Okay. And you had mentioned leaving Fidelity. That is something that I would think that that would be pretty scary. That was a hell of a leap of faith for you.
Yeah.
How did you gain the strength of belief in doing this, that you were willing to do that? Was it scary?
It's going to sound like I'm like putting on a false bravado, but it wasn't. And I'm not, well, you know me, I'm not a like alpha male guy. I'm like, oh, I got to be tough. No, I wasn't scary. That it wasn't scary because it was just so resonant in me, the calling to do what I do. Whether it was solidified as to what that was, it was such a, because of my practice, I knew. Um, I think the things that scare us are the things that we don't really know. It's like if we are, much to my point earlier, if we're listening to society or our parents, our loved ones, are that you should do this, you do that. If we didn't have an idea of what was important to us, then I would think anything would be scary because, like, if I do this, I'm going to be upsetting my husband, my wife. If I do this, I'm like, society says I shouldn't be just quitting a job without having another job. All those things were outside that cocoon that I was talking about earlier. So to your point, it it was absolutely the exact opposite. It was like the most certain thing, the shortest thing I've ever experienced in my life. It wasn't like, oh crap, what did I just do? What did I just do? It was more like it's a new life. Today is a new life. So yeah.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah, I would have been freaking out. And can you talk about your spiritual walk? What are your beliefs, and how has this practice helped you hone in on your consciousness, on your spirit, on where you are in being able to uh, just be a spiritual being on a human journey?
Ah, great question. One of my favorite questions, absolutely. Because much like I talked about earlier, one of the things I love about my meditation practice is the fact that every time I meditate, sometimes more profound than others, but every time I meditate, it's like I'm not the age that I am. It's like I'm timeless. I'm like, wow, I feel like a kid because I'm like, I'm shown something different every day. I experience something different every day when I meditate. Sometimes it's just a peaceful feeling. And other times, like I've talked about, I'm like, I feel connected to all life. I feel that I'm not, it's in regards to us. I'm looking at you on the screen and I'm like, that's Jeremy, that's me. In a meditation part, I experience things where it's like there is no Jeremy, there is no Thom. It's just light and love, and it's just so profound. And things of that nature are definitely where meditation shines. But even in other things, which are a little bit more esoteric, and I have no problem talking about them, like the concept of nonlinear time. There are times that I meditate, and it is my understanding that I am stepping outside of the time that I know. There are times that I meditate and I am transported to places I've never even been before, seen before. There are times that I'm walking in a wakeful way, even outside of meditation, where I'm like, I don't think I'm where I was a couple minutes ago, or so I'm shifting in between realities and dimensions and time. And it might sound scary, but it's the exact opposite. Much like when I left Fidelity, I'm like, cool. I'm being shown something else. No worries. I can always come back to where I need to be, and I'm always going to be safe wherever I am. So, um, if we think about a religious background, I was raised Catholic up until I think it was like 6 years old. I was living in Knoxville, Tennessee with my family. Well, we were all living in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I remember going to church. And then one day, my mom says, it was a Sunday. She's like, do you want to go to church? I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, she didn't say really. Do you get anything out of church? I said, well, I kind of like, the only part that I really like is where you get to turn to strangers and say, peace be with you. She's like, well, that's nice. She's like, anything else? I'm like, no. She's like, do you want to keep going? And at 6-year-old me, I'm like, we lived in student housing. There are pool tables down in the lobby, and there was an aquatic center down the road. I'm like, what would we do if we didn't go to church? Well, we'd have brunch and we'd hang together as a family. I'm like, so did you really ask me that question, what I want to do? I'm like, no, this is what I want to do. Later on, I came to find out that my mom was kind of having a question of her own faith. She's like, she was raised Catholic, but she's like, she was a very strong, very self-assured woman. She's like, for her, she's like, I can't belong to a religion that treats me like a second-class citizen. So I think she was kind of looking for a way for for her to get out too. But when she said, "Okay, do you want to do this anymore?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." So that was my religion up till when I was younger, and it was funny because when I was in high school, all my friends were being I don't even know going to communion and all that stuff, and I'm just like, oh, whatever. That's their thing. That's not my thing. Um, so other than that, even though we've talked earlier that I'm like, there are a lot of parts of Buddhism that I find absolutely fascinating that really resonate with me. But one of the things that my meditation teaches me also is that I don't need to categorize myself in any way. Anything that I am as a Catholic, as a male, as Irish, as Italian, like those are all categorizations that have been put upon me. And if I was to become a Buddhist or Muslim or anything, I'd just be adding another characterization that I don't need. I am everything, just like all of us are. So no need to put myself in a box. So that's my religion.
Okay. You've said a couple of things here that just kind of spark my interest. Have you ever experienced a time slip, and what was that like?
I say this as humbly as I can. It happens a lot.
Okay.
So, um, and sometimes it's fleeting. Sometimes I keep it going, and sometimes it's an awareness. And this is probably not the most articulate way of putting it, but there are times that I'm driving in my car, and I'm thinking as I'm driving, I'm like, this is an archaic way to get from point A to point B. This is how people get around in this time. So my mind shifts to like, I guess I'm in this thing and this is what I have to do because I'm here in this time. And then to the exact opposite, there are times when I'm like driving in my car and I'm like, this is amazing. This thing's going fast. I'm like, how does all this work? And my mind shifts in between times. That's a very digestible way. Uh, One of the things I talk about on my show is that many things that I experience in my meditation are inarticulable, meaning that I'm like, I am a writer, I am a speaker, and with all the words I have at my disposal, I can't even come close to experiencing or telling about the experiences that I've had in my meditation. But to your point, there are times where the very energy of who I am, I mean, I'll be walking out and it'll just be like I walked through like a doorway. Like I can't even describe, but long story short, I'm walking and I'll just be like looking around like and huh. And a feeling comes over my body. I'm like, I just shifted. I am not where I was before, whether it be time, whether it be dimension, whether it be reality. And my whole being becomes heightened to everything around me. Some things look alien to me. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna stop my story. Here's a great example. I remember a summer night. I was hanging out with some friends. We had a barbecue, and then I was driving home, and I pulled into my driveway, and I lived alone at the time, and I still do. But I pulled into my driveway, and I looked up at my house, and I remember thinking to myself, I remember when I used to live there. And I'm like, huh. And I open up the door, and I'm just like looking at this house like it was a house from like 50 years ago. I'm like, I remember all the things I used to do in this house. This is kind of cool. And I was totally outside of time. And I was just looking at this place like it was somewhere I was 20 years ago, even though there was a vestige of my consciousness that says, you're still here, but you're not still here. I don't know if that's making any sense. And I'm trying to make it as articulate as I can, but that's a great example. And I remember sitting in the car with the door open, just looking at my house and looking around. I'm like, yeah, there was a small portion of my mind that was rooted in quote, the right time, but the majority of my mind was in a time that was not, quote, the right time. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
Yeah, it does. And a few minutes ago, you mentioned speaking with your mother. How do you do this?
well, after I decided that I was not going crazy, my mom passed away about 7 years ago, and it was about a year and a half, and I didn't even know that it was possible. So after she died, I'm like, well, the hugest source of unconditional love and wisdom is gone. I'm on my own. No worries. So I meditated every day, many times, ending up sobbing, just missing my mom. And after a while, the missing stopped. Uh, and then in a meditation, uh, I'm trying to think, I don't know what question I remember saying, you really want me to cry here, don't you? I remember asking my mom, I remember in my meditation saying, I miss you, mom. And she says, what do you miss about me? And it struck me as odd because I heard her voice. I said, is that you? She's like, what do you think? I said, I think I'm cracking up. I'm like, I miss you so much that I'm making it up, that I want to hear your voice. She's like, is that what you really think? I'm like, no, I think you're here. She's like, I am. I'm everywhere. Huh. I can collect myself for just 2 seconds. And I said, how can I be talking to you? She's like, well, you really can't understand it. And I don't mean that to sound degrading, sweetheart, but you do know that time is not linear. So you are speaking to all me, the portion of me that is still alive, the portion of me that has transcended a body, the portion of me that is no longer your mom, that is just energy, that is light and love. She's like, but because you are not tethered to the belief that time is linear, you're connecting with me through all time. I'm like, you're right. I don't understand that. She's like, you don't have to. She's like, do you believe that you're talking to me? I said, yes, wholeheartedly. Do you think you're crazy? I'm like, no. And to that point, every time that we talk, and it's not all the time, but there are so many times where I understand that it is indeed my mom or an aspect of my mom that I'm talking to, because she'll ask me questions that I'll have no answer to. Or I'll just ask her a question and I'll be like, I don't have an answer to that. I don't understand what you're talking about. And uh, in my in my waking moments, I'm like, how could I create thought that I can't answer? So it must be coming from somewhere else. And to my point, whether it be mom, Bart, my other guides, she's like, oh, cool. I'm able to talk to mom. I'm able to talk to other guides, and it's incredibly, and to say incredibly is the hugest understatement, one of the biggest benefits of my meditation practice. Did I answer your question? I hope it did.
Yeah, it sure does. It sure does. This is really all, quite incredible to hear. And I wanted to know if you might take just a few short minutes here and guide me and my audience on a short meditation.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of my favorite things to do. Cool. In keeping with that, I would ask you and the people listening to settle in wherever they are. Just get comfortable wherever you are, in your chair. Obviously, if you're driving, don't be doing this. But if you're home, and just settle into your chair and bring your attention to your breath. Notice all the sensations that come with breathing. There's no need to alter your breath in any way. Just become aware of it, all the aspects of it. The inhale, whether that be through your nose, through your mouth. The hold, and the exhale. With your eyes closed, just become aware of the space that you're in. Feel where you are connected to earth, to ground, your feet on the floor, your butt in your chair or on the couch, laying down in your bed. If any thoughts enter your mind, that's fine. That's to be expected. It's exactly what a mind does. It creates thoughts. But in those moments, simply acknowledge the thought and bring your attention back to your breath. And now I want you to bring your attention to your entire body. Notice any places that are tense or uncomfortable, but without the need to fix anything. We're simply going to bring our attention to those spaces. With every breath that we exhale, we're sinking deeper and deeper into our chair or our cushion. With every inhale, we're bringing in fresh, clean oxygen, revitalizing every cell, feeling at peace, feeling calm. Now I would like us to take 3 to 4 nice deep breaths. Those deep breaths, we're going to inhale through our nose for a count of 4. We're going to hold our breath for a count of 7. And then we're going to exhale through our mouth for a count of 8. And we can do this one together. Inhale through our nose for 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And exhale through our mouth. Nice. Let's take another deep breath. You can do this together, but you can do it on your own. In through our nose, expanding that belly. Hold. And slowly let it out through our mouth. Let's take one more, the biggest one yet. In through our nose, expanding our belly. Hold. And out through our mouth. Nice job. Now just bring your attention back to your breath, its regular rhythm, its regular pace. Again, feel yourself sinking deeper into your chair, into your cushion. And one more time, if any thoughts make their way into your mind, acknowledge them and bring your attention back to your breath. Sensations in your nose, your mouth. And now in your mind's eye, I want you to imagine that you're on a beach. It's a beautiful, beautiful summer day. It's not too hot. There's a nice breeze in the air. You can feel it on your skin. You can feel the sand through your toes. The sand's not too hot either. On this beach, you're alone. Totally alone. And that's fine. Because it's so peaceful. So calming. You can hear the ocean roaring as it crashes on the shore. Birds in the sky, a couple seagulls making some noise. You're here, safe, warm, so calm. You lay down on the sand, you stare up at the sky. The sky is so blue. There are clouds. They're nice, billowy, beautiful white clouds. Nothing on your mind, but being in this space, being connected to the surf, to the sand, to the sun. So peaceful. You're so grateful to have this moment, to have chosen this moment, to be still, be silent. I'm going to leave you for just a few moments so you can experience all that this beach has to offer. And just a while, the next time you hear my voice, it won't startle you or alarm you. It'll simply be a reminder that it's time to come back to this place. It's time to come back now. Take one last look. The sky, the surf. I'm going to count back from 4 to 1. When we reach 1, when you feel ready, you can open your eyes. 4, 3, beginning to feel the room around you, the space around you. 2, feeling totally calm, totally relaxed. And 1, when you're ready, you can open your eyes.
That was tremendously powerful for me.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad.
That was beautiful. And I was able to experience these wonderful changing landscapes and flying with this bird. And then
Nice.
obviously the beach and a total being here and your voice guiding me very specifically through this, calling my attention back to the point where I didn't even need to do that anymore. I was just there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that opportunity. It's one of my favorite things to do, actually,
That was
obviously.
amazing. That was truly amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I was, as I was guiding, I'm like, I know this is air quotes radio or audio. I'm like, I guess we have to throw dead air out of the, the equation because when I left you and the other listeners, other meditators to experience the beach, I'm like, oh, it's silent. I'm like, oh, I don't know if that works for a podcast, but it's got it
That's
now.
it's an experience. It's immersive. It's and all of it. So I honestly love it. So thank you for guiding that. And you do you're now completely dedicated to this. And do you travel to go do it, or do you mostly do it all online? Or
Mostly online, but I have been teaching meditation to some incarcerated men in Berlin,
fantastic.
New Hampshire, and I'm starting that up again in Concord, New Hampshire, a little closer to home. Berlin is a pretty far jaunt for me, so I've done it that a couple times, but now I'm doing a little closer to home in Concord, New Hampshire, which is only about half an hour away, and I really enjoy that. So.
Can you talk about the incarcerated men and what it is that they're able to gain out of a practice like this?
Oh, absolutely. I'll be honest, the first time I did it, I was well, I'm one of the things I love about my practice and about me and that connection is the understanding that everybody's got their own path. And one of the greatest gifts my dad ever gave me was the lesson that like nobody's better, nobody's worse. We're all just on this path together. So the first time I went there, it was a little jarring. I'll be honest, because I wasn't afraid of the men, but it was just the whole energy of like I had to go through like three different doors to get into the hall where I was teaching, and you'd hear gates, bars open up and then slam shut behind you, and then another. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm really in here now. But to the deeper question, uh, the guys that I was there with were just amazing. Every one of them. They were kind and attentive and curious, and they all had their own history, obviously. I don't know if it was appropriate, and I didn't really care why they were there for how long. I mean, it was they were all there for a pretty long time, so it didn't really matter to me what they had done to get there. My goal was to help them find a tool to find peace where they are. And we did, or I did lead a meditation. And it was one of the greatest things I like about teaching is hearing the stories that people of what happens in a meditation. So, I had the meditation, and so I talked about meditation, taught them how to meditate from a beginner standpoint, pretty much like what we did just now. But the stories that these guys shared with me, which first and foremost was amazing, because I'm like, these guys they've probably had a tough life. They're probably not going to be that talkative. They're probably not going to be, and these were my own judgments. I'm like, they're probably just gonna, maybe they're just thinking, cool, I get an hour that I'm not in my cell, so I'm gonna just. It was the exact opposite. They had so many questions. They had so many stories about what they experienced in the meditations. And it was just, God, it was probably one of the most intense moments teaching. I mean, I've taught a lot, obviously, in corporations, and those are great. But to teach these guys or to hear their stories and to see how it was really changing their lives. And some of them had meditated before, so they're like, so they were becoming familiar with my style of meditation, my guided meditations. And some of them had never meditated before. They'd heard about it. And, I talked about what meditation is in this talk. And then they just came alive. And it was just so fascinating. And they all shared, everyone. There was not one person that was quiet that just kind of sat in the background. They all shared, and they were all respectful and kind. And it was just probably one of the most beautiful nights of my life. Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. And I've always had, and I still do have, um, people in my life that have become incarcerated that I write to. And one of the things that I do in my letters to them is I write long descriptions of
Nice.
the outside, what it's like, where I live, and what the birds sound like, and things like this, because their imaginative minds are very vivid because they have a lot of time to spend there. So I'll bet that this was really powerful for them.
Well, the other thing to that point, and I love that you do that because that you're absolutely 100% right. But if I think about the things that meditation has taught me is that if we are all indeed connected, then that means, and I believe that obviously, that if you are incarcerated, if you are in a cell, you are not in your cell. You have access to the energy of the entire world. And if we have this connection, that means even if our senses say you are in a cell, our soul is connected to everything. And it says, you're free. Whether you are in a cell or not, you're as free as you want to be and can be. And I think that's one of the reasons I enjoy teaching meditation to people that are incarcerated to help them understand. I'm like, yeah, in your world, in your perception, you're in a cell. But that's just a perception. That's just a thought. And it's just as false or just as illusory as any other thought. You can take your mind, you can be anywhere in the world. So, yes, in the confines of society, of modern thought, you're a man in a cell. But the reality is you are genderless and zipping about the world. And with a meditation practice, you can experience that. And I think that's why each one of them was so open and talking about all the things they experienced. In fact, one of the guys um, that I was talking with, he's like, I hope you don't feel bad. He's like, I was listening to your voice and I uh I got transported to like I was on a boat and I was with friends of mine and we were out in the middle of the ocean. We were just tooling around in this motorboat. And it was, he's like, I started out on the beach, like you said, but I just took my own journey. I'm like, sweet. That's exactly what I was hoping for. So stories like that just brought a tear to my eye.
Tremendously powerful. And can you talk about your mission for the world? Because you talked about wanting to bring meditation to 1 million people. Can you talk about what it is that you want as an effect of that?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that question because it is the very driving force of why I do what I do. And as I mentioned earlier, when I was younger, if somebody said, you're going to be teaching meditation, I'm like, no, no, no. I'm going to be a psychologist. I'm going to own a restaurant. I'm going to be a magician. I'm going to be a veterinarian. And one of the things, real briefly, like when I wake up, it's not even a question of why am I here? I'm like, this is why I'm here. And to your overall question, my life has been such a gift. And I've experienced challenges just like anybody, but I'm always able, because of my meditation, to see life as a gift. And when I think about that, and when I had this epiphany about leaving Fidelity, and like, I can't not give back to the world. My life has been such a blessing. I can't keep this all to myself. So if there's ever a way, and I know there is, that I can help people suffer less, if I can help people understand their power so they never feel that they are have their back against the wall and that they're in a situation that is not of their own choosing, that they have the ability to create whatever reality or whatever life that they want, then that's exactly how I pay the world back for all that it's given me. And one of the things I've mentioned in other interviews is that, at the risk of sounding heady, that in my meditations, um, I say that I'm connected. But to that point, there are times that I feel the energy of the entire planet. And sometimes when I check in with the world, there's joy, despite the fact that there are wars going on. I'm like, cool. The energy of the world is calm right now. I like that. And to my other point, there are times I'm like, ooh, when I get in touch with the energy of the world, and I'm like, ooh, there's a lot of suffering right now. There's a lot of pain right now. I'm like, okay, if there's something I can do to help one person experience less pain, less suffering, that's why I'm here. And when I think about 1 million plus, if we as a people begin to understand peace in our own bodies, in our own souls, then the world will change. It is changing right now, but it'll change faster. Not that it needs to do fast, but it'll change in a wonderful way. Peace will become the norm. And personal peace will become the norm. Global peace will be the norm. It's just my way of calming the world down and saying thank you for my life.
How do people find you?
The best way is zencommuter.com. They can avail themselves to the website there. They can listen to any of the shows. I think we're at 1,600 shows right now for Zen Commuter. I've been doing this for about 10 years. And certainly, yeah, that's the best way. Either listen to the podcast, Calmer in 5 or Zen Commuter. But yeah, just head on out to zencommuter.com and catch me there. And to that point, I love creating dialogue with listeners. So THOM at zencommuter.com. So if you're listening to this, you're like, hey, I got a question for Thom. Yeah, zip me off an email. It's not going to my marketing team. Well, I am my marketing team. So I love answering emails from listeners, and I get a lot. So and every one of them I answer on my own. So that's definitely a way to start the dialogue going. So if anybody has questions or they want to know more, that's the best way.
We're going to have your contact information and all of your links in the description of this podcast. And so I'd just like to thank you so much for bringing a powerfully insightful episode and all of your verve and your excitement and everything to Mindful Mutiny. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for the opportunity. It was an absolute joy. I love doing what I do. And like I said, if I can help anybody become calmer and understand how amazing they are, then that is definitely what I'm up for every day for the rest of my days.
Well, thank you so much. And to the listeners, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the Mindful Mutiny podcast. And in a lifetime, there are more decisions than anybody could count. Living the highest form of yourself is the most rewarding thing you can do. Make incredible, positive, risky, and bold decisions to be the highest version of you. Now go be something great.